once again with another quickie introduction to the PRINCE2 project management method. In this session, we are going to be talking about the underlying principles of PRINCE2, and we shall be covering them, one by one. And if we run out of time, and since this is a quickie introduction, remember, we shall be dealing with either one or more, maybe two principles at a time. Okay, the first principle that we like to talk to here is continued business justification. Okay, so continued business justification is an important principle of PRINCE2. Remember, principles are things which has to be done throughout the whole project. Otherwise, it's not a PRINCE2 project. Yeah. So continued business justification, what does it imply? That stems from, I think, a kind of syndrome that some projects have, whereby there's a fantastically attractive justification up front before the project gets its approval and starts, and the project continues until the end, maybe 6 months time, 12 months time, 2 years time, who knows, and is seen to be a disaster once it gets to the end. Yeah. So we avoid that by justifying the projects as we go along. It doesn't mean there will be no changes. It just means that as the project progresses, every now and then we take stock of the situation and ask ourselves, is the project continuing as intended? And if not, why? And should we carry on? If there is no longer a proper business justification for the projects, then the projects really ought to be terminated and save everybody a lot of pain and suffering. If we compare to a situation where the project is forced to carry on simply because nobody has the courage, and there's nothing built into the method or the procedures to allow a kind of organized way to shut down the projects. So continued business justification is an important principle of, let me rephrase that. Continued business justification is an important principle of PRINCE2. Okay, right, it's like slip the tongue there. The phrase we use is that a PRINCE2 project is driven by its business case. Remember that a project's business case drives a PRINCE2 project. In terms of the justification, right? In terms of the commitment not just of the project manager to ensure that the project runs on time, on budget, according to specified quality, etc., but also in terms of the management level above the project's manager, who has to approve resources and who has to have the proper governance to make sure that whatever the project manager does is actually as it should. Okay, rationale for the deliverables of the outcome. Okay, so basically, a project is intended to produce a certain output in order to achieve certain benefits through various outcomes. And we'll be talking a lot more about this later on in another session on the difference between a product, a outcome, and a benefit. Yeah. So let's move on from here. Bear in mind that for every principle that we have in PRINCE2, we must know why we are doing that. Okay? And continued business justification in PRINCE2 projects is because by focusing on the business case, we avoid a situation where the project is automatically carries on, just driven by the fact that everybody does their job. Nobody is actually keeping an eye on whether it continues to justify, to serve a particular purpose, according to the originally specified reasons. And it perhaps, as I said, please bear in mind that it does not imply that the project manager is at fault. Yeah, it basically could very well be a situation whereby the circumstances have changed, the corporate strategy has changed, for example, and therefore the projects, if and when it does deliver its products, could be highly successful, on time, on budget, etc., but it no longer serves a purpose. So in that situation, the projects should really be terminated. And well, I shouldn't be saying this at this point in time, but those of you who get into program management will have a lot more ideas about this. Yeah, but that's something for another day. Okay, so let's look at the next underlying principle.